Be careful. If you live near a plantation or an open field, stop what you're doing and look out the window. Because the legend you are about to hear starts with a simple mistake, thinking that a shapeless, crawling creature is just a child's prank. It moves without legs or head in the middle of the cornfield. But when that thing looks at you and pronounces a single word, it's a warning. A warning that the ground you walk on will soon be your grave. Hello, Vera, Legends Architect here, and today we're going to dive into a tale that is pure folklore. It's a story that's spread in rural areas, where isolation and silence hold macabre secrets. The legend is known as the Crawling Thing, and it has to do with an omen of death, strange as it is inescapable. Our story begins with a man named David. He was not superstitious. He was the kind of person who laughed at ghost stories. David lived on a farm. His house was on the boundary between civilization and nothingness. In front, a road. In the back, a vast cornfield that seemed endless. The cornfield was dense. In the summer, the stalks were taller than a man. It was the perfect place for a horror story to begin. And that is exactly what happened. On a sultry afternoon, David was working in the garden. He stopped to rest and drink water, looking towards the cornfield border. That's when he saw the movement. Something was dragging itself at the edge, where the field meets his lawn. At first, he thought it was an animal. A large raccoon, perhaps. But the shape was wrong. It didn't seem to have 4 paws. It was a formless mass, dark, and it moved with a strange, calculated slowness. David squinted. The thing was low, almost flat on the ground. It had no visible arms or legs, and the most disturbing part, it had at least not a recognizable human or animal head. David, skeptical by nature, smiled. What the hell is that? He thought. He grabbed a stick and slowly began walking towards the fence. The crawling thing stopped. The creature rose slightly, as if it were stretching, and then the voice. It wasn't a grunt or a roar. It was a voice, calm and strangely melodic. It was a whisper that seemed to come from within the earth, not the creature. The crawling thing said only one word: tomorrow. David stopped. The smile vanished. His heart began to pound in his chest. What did you say? He shouted, trying to sound angry, but his voice came out trembling. The creature did not move. It just hunched over like a wilted rag doll, and it repeated with the same sepulchral voice, tomorrow. David dropped the stick. He wasn't superstitious, but that wasn't natural. He ran inside the house and locked the door. He looked out the window. The creature was sliding back into the cornfield. It vanished as silently as it had appeared. David was terrified. He spent the night awake, but the next day arrived without incident. No tragedy, no disaster. It must have been stress, he rationalized. I was tired. I imagined the whole thing. He tried to forget the event, but the crawling thing was not finished. The next evening, the sun was setting, painting the sky red. David was eating dinner, but he couldn't take his eyes off the window. And there it was again, a meter closer to the house, at the edge of the yard. The dark moss crawling, undefined, seemingly absorbing the light. This time, David picked up his phone. I'm going to film this aberration, he thought. But as soon as he opened the camera, the voice came again. That cold, dry murmur, directly into his mind. The day after tomorrow, David froze. He couldn't lift the phone. His body wouldn't obey. The terror didn't come from the thing's appearance, but from the implicit promise in its words. It wasn't a threat. It was a calendar. Panic hit him. He called his nearest neighbor, who lived miles away. You have to come. There's something here. In the cornfield. He pleaded. The neighbor, logical and annoyed, told David to go to sleep and stop drinking. David couldn't tell the truth. Who would believe a crawling thing that talks about the future? That night, he packed his bags. He was going to run away. He knew that if he was far from the farm, the creature couldn't reach him. But something stopped him. A morbid curiosity. He had to know what came next. He had to know the deadline. He waited. The next day, nothing happened. David's terror was now an agonizing wait. Would the creature return? What would it say? The third night, David was sitting on the porch with no lights on. It was total darkness, only the sound of crickets. And then the sound of dragging closer than ever. The smell of wet earth and something rotten. The crawling thing was on his doorstep. David closed his eyes. He didn't want to look, but the magnetism of fear was strong. He opened them. The creature was less than a meter away. It looked bigger, denser, and it emitted a cold warmth. It bent down, and the voice, louder now, filled the porch. Today, David didn't run. He was paralyzed. He looked at the thing, challenging it with his eyes, despite the terror. What? What's going to happen today? He whispered. The creature didn't respond with a grand explanation of death or a curse. It simply swayed its shapeless body, slowly, and with a hiss that seemed to drain the air from the night, it spoke the last word. I come for you. And then the crawling thing moved fast. So fast that David barely saw the blur. He felt the impact. A dry, cold weight on his chest. A smell of mold and earth, and an overwhelming pressure. He tried to scream, but the sound was muffled by the formless mat. The next morning, the neighbor, finally worried, went to the farm. The door was open. David's breakfast was untouched on the table. David had disappeared. There were no signs of a struggle or break-in. The only strange thing was a dark, damp stain, like mud, on the porch rug. The Omen is not a legend about being warned. It is about being counted. If something faceless and nameless gives you a date, it's because that date is already marked.